Thank you, Senator King. Senator Blackburn, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all so much for your service to our nation and for your time. And General Brown, thank you for your time last week on the phone. I appreciated the conversation about hypersonics and AEDC and that importance to us in Tennessee. We talked some about Aero, and so Secretary Kendall, I want to come to you on that because the reports indicate, recent reports indicate that you're looking to move that funding away from Aero and the hypersonics, and you're looking to pivot to R&D. So if you would talk about the implications of this decision and moving away from Aero, what that is going to mean to how you use those funds, where they're going to go, critical infrastructure, and how can Congress support the R&D that is necessary for Aero and hypersonics?
Senator, we fully funded Aero for research and development for the development of the program in the 23 budget. We have not funded procurement yet, and Aero, as I think you know, has had a series of test failures. As much as we're encouraged to have failures, we have to have success before we can move forward to production. There are, I think, two tests that are planned over the next several months that will give us a better indication of where we are in the program, and then we'll look at it again as we build.
Okay, 24. Let's talk about that, because General Brown and I talked a little bit about how we become less risk-averse, because there's got to be a way to do this, especially when you look at the communist Chinese and the amount of emphasis that they are putting on hypersonics, what you see happening in North Korea with hypersonics. And there has to be a way that the Air Force says we're accepting failures because we learn from failures, and maybe even looking at this as there is no such thing as a failed test, because we have to be learning and become competitive.
Yeah, it's well understood in engineering that the tests are ways to learn about your product and find problems and fix them. Eventually, though, you do have to get to successful performance in order to go ahead and field. The best place to have failures and to tolerate them is in the early stages of technology maturation, when you're doing experimental prototyping to demonstrate whether or not something can actually be done at all. Once you're committed to a product that you want to take to production, you have a different...
We understand that. But what we are concerned about is falling behind.
I agree.
And there has to be a balance brought to this where you're doing the appropriate R&D. AEDC is the place for doing much of this R&D and testing, which we have to be committed to that testing phase so we can get to procurement and deployment and those necessary components. But it also means that we have to invest in infrastructure and maintenance so that we have the ability to do that. And I hope you will commit to visiting AEDC with me.
I think I've made that commitment before, and I will do so, Senator.
Well, that sounds good. General Raymond, I want to move to Space National Guard. There is quite a bit of interest in this. Some of us have legislation that would move forward with establishing a Space National Guard. And, of course, we have wanted to do this. We've asked several times for reports, is the best way to say it, on the value and the feasibility of establishing a Space National Guard, but we haven't received reports. So what can you tell me about where that is in the process?
When the law was established the Space Force, or passed to establish the Space Force, Congress directed us to do a study. And we've done those studies. And the number one legislative proposal that we have this year is to take the reserve forces and active and push them together in one. It's a legislative lift, but we want to work with the committee to do that. On the Guard side, we've been operating with the Guard for 25 years.
Okay, in my time left then, what is the most effective and efficient way to make certain we have a Space Force National Guard?
There's several ways you can do it. There's three ways. You can have a separate
Best way.
Best way is one of two: either have a separate Space National Guard, or continue, or take the capabilities from the Guard and move them into this one component.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.